Hello and welcome everyone to our June virtual info session where we are asking you to ask us anything. This is a session especially for the incoming fall 22 cohort. And so I have a great panel of folks here with me today to answer any questions that you have about registration, enrollment, all the good things that you need to do to get ready to come to the Brown School in the fall. My name is Sarah Birch. I use she, her pronouns, and I am an Associate Director of Admissions and Recruitment for the Brown School at Washington University in St. Louis. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items. As I shared, we would love to hear from you in the chat if you'd like to introduce yourself there. But if you have questions throughout the session, please feel free to use the Q&A feature as well. We'll be monitoring that and we'll get to questions after we do a brief presentation. This session is being recorded, so if you have to hop off, if you're watching live, you can catch us again on YouTube to catch anything you miss. We'll also have the link to the Zoom recording available on our website too. With that, I think we'll go ahead and get started with a round of introductions. I'm going to go to the next screen and I'm going to ask my panelists if they could please introduce themselves in order that their name appears and let us know what kind of questions you can help answer today. And we'll start with Dawn.
Good afternoon. My name is Dominique Sandheinrich. I'm the Assistant Director of Financial Services here at the Brown School. I use she, her, hers. And primarily, you can our department works with students to better understand the federal aid process. We also work with admissions. So once you are awarded your institutional aid, we apply that to student accounts. And so we just ask students to check over their accounts, make sure things are applied correctly. We assist in that process. We assist in better understanding your financial aid portal. And again, we always talk about financial aid being federal aid and institutional aid. And so if you have questions about how to apply for that, how the process works, feel free to send me some questions. I can talk one-on-one with you as well. So thank you and welcome. I'm excited to talk with you all.
Thanks, Dom. And Melissa Arnold is here, but she is off camera and she's going to be answering questions for us in the chat and in the Q&A. She is our MSW program manager, so can certainly answer questions about the MSW program and especially for our advanced standing MSW students because we know that your tracks are a little specified. And so if you have questions about anything regarding curriculum, you can ask those questions in the chat and we'll be sure to get those answered.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ragini Madhipati, and I use she, her pronouns. I am the Assistant Dean for Academic Programs here at the Brown School. It's just a way of saying that I'm the Assistant Dean for Social Work and Public Health. So happy to answer questions that you may have about either the programs, curriculum, supports here at the Brown School. I also formerly worked in the Office of Field Education, and so happy to answer any questions you may have around field ed, practicum for both the social work and the public health programs as well.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us from different time zones. My name is Zizi Shishili. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm the manager of global programs, I'm the manager of global programs, and I'm working closely with international students and scholars in terms of student advising, admission and recruitment, and also a lot of programming. And I hope you enjoy this section today and your question will be answered. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nikki Samtani. I am a current rising second-year student in the MSW program. I'm really excited to get to talk with you all today and hear your questions. I was doing this a year ago, so that's already pretty crazy. But yeah, I can speak to anything that touches on the student experience at the Brown School, life in St. Louis and what that's like. I moved here, so I'd be happy to talk about that as well. But yeah, I'm excited to get to know all of you a little bit better.
Thank you all so much. So before we dive into all of the really wonderful questions that were submitted beforehand and the questions that I hope you all will submit as we go along our live session, I do have a few slides to go through, just kind of talk about what you should be thinking about right now as an incoming student. And so hopefully at this point, you all have received the fall 2022 enrollment packet that was sent out at the end of May, or at the beginning of May, excuse me. We've kind of changed our timeline a little bit. And so that packet, if you've read it, you know it has a lot of steps with a lot of information, but is really designed to help you move through the enrollment process and get ready for course registration, which is going to be happening at the end of the month. So bookmark that enrollment packet on your web browser, refer to it often, and know that if there isn't something in the packet that is answering a question that you have, you can always reach out to the Office of Admissions and we'd be happy to clarify anything or point you in the right direction for more resources. And if you have submitted your intent to enroll before May 11, on or before May 11th, you should have also already received an email that reads, activate your WashU WUSTL key in email. It was sent to your personal email address on May 16th. That's step 1 in the enrollment packet. And you should have followed those instructions to create your WUSTL key and your @wustl.edu email address. It can take up to 72 hours to gain access to university systems after you've established those credentials. So give it a moment, but if after that you're having some trouble with accessing anything, reach out to us or reach out to IT, and there are some instructions in the enrollment packet on how to make sure that everything is working properly. If you are a very recently enrolled student, so you just recently got admitted or you just recently submitted your enrollment intent to enroll, know that you'll get this email within 5 to 7 days of when you submit your intent to enroll. So your timeline is going to be a little adjusted based on when you submit your intent to enroll, but you will be getting all of these things that I'm talking about within about a week of when you submit that intent to enroll. So then just following right along in the steps in the enrollment packet, steps 2 through 4 help with establishing a few more WashU credentials. We have a 2-factor authentication platform that we use to log into all of our systems. So you'll want to install that on your mobile device to ensure that you can get into all things WashU even when you're not on campus. You'll update your contact information in WebStack if that needs to happen, and then also sign the student handbook. If you would like to take proficiency exams, then you may register now. Registration is open and will remain open and available to take online until June 26th. In step 5 of the enrollment packet outlines all the things to do to register for proficiency exams. We say, you don't have to take proficiency exams, but we strongly encourage it, especially if you'd like to free up some of your credit hours to take other elective courses. There are 2 proficiency exams for each of the MSW and MPH programs that you can take to test out of some of the foundation level courses. So if you're interested in doing that, definitely make sure that you register and get that done before you register for courses, ideally, because then you'll know what courses you have freed up to use for electives or other concentration or specialization level courses. Again, this proficiency exams doesn't hurt to take them. So if you don't pass, that's okay too. You'll just take the class that you took the proficiency exam for. But if you feel like it's something that you want to give a shot, I think everyone here would say go ahead and give it a shot because it can allow you to take another course. And then you'll start searching for your fall courses if you haven't already. So steps 6 and 7 in the enrollment packet kind of outline that process for searching for fall courses and then creating a registration worksheet. That registration worksheet is required to get your courses approved by your academic advisor, who, if you've already submitted your intent to enroll and set up your WashU credentials, you probably have heard from your academic advisor already. If you haven't, let us know, but note if you are one of those folks who submitted your intent to enroll a little later, so after May 11, it could take a little time, but you'll be hearing from them very soon. And then, like I said, that registration worksheet will need to be reviewed and then approved by your academic advisor in order for you to register. It can take a couple days for advisors to review, so just patience and is asked as we're filling out lots of things and reviewing lots of documents over the summer. It's quite a high volume time as we're welcoming quite a large class of students in. So just work, to be as flexible as you can with them as they're working through those. But they will certainly respond soon. And so then when does course registration start? It is at the end of this month, as I shared. On Tuesday, June 28th, registration starts at 9 a.m. Central Time for all of our advanced standing students. So that's just students in the MSW advanced standing or MPH advanced standing programs. And then the next day, Wednesday, June 29th, also at 9 a.m. Central Time, all other students will be able to register. All of the instructions for registration are pretty well laid out in the enrollment packet and by your academic advisor. So if you have any questions at all, please do reach out to them. And to help you stay along track with all of these things, we've sent a summer checklist, and we'll continue to send these checklists throughout the summer. We sent one for June last week, so you should have received that in your email with important items for the month of June. Really just mirrors what you see in the enrollment packet, but just designed as another way to keep you on track with all of those to-dos, because we know that it's a lot. That was sent via email, but it's also linked in admitted student resources on our webpage. So you can find it there as well if it got lost in your email. All right, and with that, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and move into some questions. We did receive quite a few beforehand, so thank you to those who submitted them before, but if you've got them now, feel free to type them in the Q&A and we'll go through them as we can. So I'll start just from the top, and these are kind of general that I think probably Nikki and Ragini, but also Zizi could answer to. Question about how to select courses. I think this kind of is a perfect question to start with because we just started course registration, or started talking about course registration. But what tips you have for students as they're selecting their courses? This first semester is kind of prescribed, but Ragini, I'll let you start with just things that you would want folks to keep in mind as they're selecting coursework.
Yeah, so as Sarah mentioned, the first semester for both social work and public health, and I think even social policy, it's pretty prescriptive, right? There's a set number of courses you need to take at the foundation level. For our advanced standing students, you are coming in with credits that take care of those foundation courses. So you might be able to dive straight into your concentration or specialization courses. But for our regular standing students, those will be the set courses that you need to take in that first semester. And your academic advisor will have a schematic, or will know which courses those are that you'll need to register for in the fall. For advanced standing students, that'll then depend on your specialization and concentration. So it will depend on if there's a certain number on the social work side, if there's a theory course you need to take prior to starting any of your practice level courses. In public health, there are certain courses that you need to take prior to starting practicum in the summer. So that's where you'll start in your fall semester. And your academic advisor, again, will have schematics, or at least a planning form for you to be able to review, so you know which classes you can take in sequence to make sure that you're on track to complete the program.
Thanks, Ragini. And Nikki, as a current student who's just gone through a couple semesters of registering, any other kind of tips or tricks that you've kind of come up with as you've registered for courses?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as Ragini and Sarah were saying, you don't really get a lot of choice in your first semester, especially, and then even in your second one, there's a little bit of room to play around, especially if you decide to test out of certain foundation courses. My main tip would be to scour all the courses that are available and just write down every course that seems interesting to you. And then eventually you can go through and see what you want for your electives and for your concentration. A good way of picking your concentration, I think, if you are wanting to maybe switch or you weren't sure when you were applying, is to just go through the course list and see what courses speak to you the most and go from there. You might come in as a mental health concentrator, but realize that maybe the courses in the child, youth, and families track fit more with what you are wanting to get from the program. So that would be my biggest tip as you move into the second semester of your first year, which I know seems a far way away, but it goes very fast. So that would be the biggest tip that I learned from this year.
Thanks, Nikki. And so I just linked in the chat for those who are watching live where you can search for courses. It's courses.wustl.edu. That's going to show you upcoming course offerings as well as some past course offerings, so you can get a sense of what we've offered in the past as well. So yeah, and you're welcome. Just saw the thank you in the chat. I'm going to move on to the next question then that we received beforehand, and just generally wanting to know about practicum logistics. We had a question from an incoming MSW student about practicum logistics. Also from an MPH student about when they need to take practicum and what that support looks like. So Ragini, I'll ask if you can kind of shed some light on the practicum experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to start with the Masters of Social Work program. And so for our regular standing students, so those are our students who are completing the 2-year program, you will begin starting your practicum search for foundation practicum in the fall semester. And so all students, incoming first-year students, will take what we call a Foundations of Field Education course in the fall semester. It's a 0 credit hour 3-hour session that you'll take in the first few weeks of the semester with a member of the Office of Field Education faculty team. And so that session will have all of the information you need to know about what supports you have within the Office of Field Ed, the systems that we use in order to help you search for practicum, what the timeline is for the fall semester so that we can set you up for success for when you start your practicum, your foundation practicum in the spring semester. And then for MSW students, they'll start their foundation practicum in the spring semester, and most students will finish up in the summer because remember, you're also taking classes while you're doing your foundation practicum. And so most students will do about 2 credits, which comes out to about 240 hours of the total 360 hours that are required for foundation practicum, and then finish up those remaining hours in the summer. And then you'll start to serve anywhere in the spring semester into the summer semester as well, with the idea that you may start in the summer, but most likely you'll probably start in the subsequent fall for your concentration practicum. And just a reminder for the MSW program, you do 360 hours of concentration practicum, which comes out to 3 credits in the program. And then you do 5 credits of concentration practicum, which is a total of 600 field hours in that second year. For our advanced standing students, depending on the track that you're coming in on, we still try to set you up for success so that you will look for practicum in the fall to start in the spring. If there are alternate timelines that make more sense to you as you're entering the program, or there's opportunities that you're really interested in to maybe get started a little bit sooner, I recommend reaching out to the Office of Field Education because they can set you up and talk through what options you have available to you, what makes sense in terms of a timeline, and then also to make sure that you have enough time to get comfortable being at the Brown School, right? This is a new experience. It's your first semester. And so we just want to make sure that you kind of have your time to get your feet wet a little bit before we have you then starting practicum as well. But for advanced standing students, then the requirement would just be the 600 hours of practicum, which is the 5 credits of concentration practicum that you'll complete. For our Masters of Public Health students, just because of how our course sequencing is set up, and because our specializations, each specialization has a set different courses that are required prior to starting practicum, which most students will take in the spring semester of their first year. Our Masters of Public Health students will do the required 3 credits of practicum, which is 360 hours in the summer between their first and second year of coursework. That's just when the majority of students will do it. And it's also because they're not taking classes during that time. So it's really easy to do practicum full-time or do practicum alongside a part-time job. So it's just more time afforded during the summer semester. And then alternate timelines are available for both programs. So if you're thinking that you don't want to do it in the summer and you would like to do your MPH practicum over the fall and spring of your second year, that is possible. Again, for all of our programs, MSP included, we encourage you to reach out to the Office of Field Education. We have field faculty members that specialize in all of our different concentrations and specializations across programs. They have the experience and the expertise to maybe help you think through what opportunities are available to you that align with your interests and the skill sets that you want to pursue, or maybe even the area or type of organization that you want to work with. And especially, if many of you are new to St. Louis, they can also help you think through what does this look like in terms of travel and commuting to your practicum site. And then lastly, in terms of supports, in addition to the Office of Field Ed, we do have databases here at the Brown School, one in particular that we have where students can search for our affiliated practicum sites. So sites that have worked with us to become affiliated to take practicum students, and then sites that have actually taken students before in the past. So there are a lot of supports here at the Brown School for practicum. So hopefully that answers both of those questions.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Ragini. I know it's gonna look a little different depending on the program that you're in and what you're interested in. And so my biggest piece of advice is to just use your resources, lean on the Office of Field Education for support, because they offer so much valuable wisdom and guidance, and can help you with truly anything practicum related. Nikki, I know you have started practicum recently. So do you want to talk a little bit about what that's looked like for you so far?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my biggest draws to the Brown School was the fact that we could search for our own practicum and kind of set up that experience as we wanted. I will say that does come with pros and cons. So I think that's important going into your first year, knowing that in other programs, they may have a list or a matching system, which might be less stressful, but I personally think can give you, at the Brown School, you get so much value out of really going through the process of searching for a place that you like, learning what's important to you in your field education experience. So for me, that has remained true, that I've really enjoyed the process of looking for my own practicum. Something that I think that's helpful to hear now and will be helpful to hear once you actually start looking for your practicum is that kind of the push to start looking comes much sooner than you think. But what I will say is those reminders that we get from the school are useful and necessary, and also not exactly the timeline that you really need to be on. I think it's easy to feel really overwhelmed early on, being like, oh my God, I have to find my practicum now, but I just got here. It's only like a month into school. So I think knowing that you will find a practicum, especially for your foundation, you will, even if it's not like what you imagined as your number one choice, you will find one that will be able to give you skills, help you grow, and you will definitely be able to complete your hours. I've had a really positive experience with my practicum. I'm working at an amazing organization. I'm here right now, actually still working in the summer, called Healing Action. If you are ever interested in looking into sex trafficking work, I'll throw my email in the chat, and I'd love to connect because it's an amazing organization. So for me, practicum has really been a foundational piece of how I feel like I've been growing and learning at the Brown School. Coursework is amazing. but actually having the real chance to work with clients, whether you've done that before or not, has really just helped me ground my experience here. So for me, it's been really positive. But just to echo what's already been said, email people twice, 3 times. Everybody's very busy at the Brown School because they're wanting to help all the students that are here, but we have a large student body in that sense. So keep pushing, go to people's offices if you must, but you will get your support if you keep pushing for it. So that's my biggest tip.
And Sarah, I just wanted to add one thing that I realized I said for social work, but maybe I didn't make it clear for the other programs, but all of our incoming students, even our advanced standing students, you'll get it in your Bridge to Brown course, but all of our incoming students will take that Foundations of Field Education course that I mentioned. And that's really where you're gonna have time with field faculty members to really think through how you're gonna set yourself up for success as you search for practicum, as Nikki said, because it is a self-selection process here at the Brown School. So just know that we are contact points as soon as you get here, and we will follow you through for your entire program.
Awesome. Thanks, Ragini, and thank you, Nikki, too, for your just sharing your experiences as well. I think that's probably the thing that rings true for anyone that I hear who's worried about practicum. I love that advice to just know that you will get practicum. It will happen. Just takes some patience and maybe a little bit of advocating on your part, but you will get that practicum. Since we're talking about practicum still, we did have a question come in live asking if there are opportunities for students to do practicum at the medical school. And so Ragini, I'll let you answer that one too.
Yes, the resounding answer is yes. So we have a very close relationship with the medical school here at WashU. I will say actually a large portion of our public health students do actually stay internal at WashU, either working with Brown School faculty or med school faculty. And so, that's an opportunity for you if you would like to work closely with them. And in fact, a lot of our Brown School faculty actually do work on projects at the medical school. So that's another way that you can get plugged in there as well, including the Institute of Public Health, which is based on our med school campus. They're great partners as well. And we have a lot of crossover with our faculty. So I encourage you to look at their page if you really are interested in working at the medical school. And then lastly, if there's certain faculty members, once you kind of look them up, if you want to reach out to them, we encourage you to do that. And if you feel a little hesitant to reach out to them and would like some advice, I encourage you to reach out to the field ed team because they can talk you through that as well.
Thank you so much. We're going to shift gears a little bit now and answer some questions about the international student process. I know especially for our incoming international students, there are a lot of things to do this summer in addition to what's outlined in that enrollment packet. And so it can be, while exciting and also stressful time. And so I want to be sure that we answer some of those questions. See a few in the Q&A, and so I'll kind of start with these. They're all generally about the same thing. So Zizi, I'll have you answer this question, but really about the length of time that it takes to get an I-20. I know a lot of students, international students who have submitted their DCOF, that Declaration and Certification of Finances. They're waiting now for that I-20, which is needed to get a visa and come to school at WashU. And so wondering what that timeline looks like and kind of what they can expect over these next couple weeks.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you all for submitting the question about I-20. I fully understand it's a very, very stressful time waiting for the documents. The short answer for getting an I-20 will be 5 to 6 weeks if every required documents are submitted properly. And if you currently have submitted your DCOF and other supporting documents, it's great because which means that your documents are under review. And if Brown School or OISS will require further, documents from you, we will contact you directly and ask you for further documents that we need. But please don't worry about that. Once your documents are submitted, we would make sure that everything is review correctly, and then because we don't want to rush to process the document and then, give it back to you later and find out, oh, there might be an error or something's missing. So please be patient. I know it's really, really frustrating, but we will definitely make sure that, you get your I-20, and then we will also support you throughout the whole process, getting your visa and then your arrival to the Brown School. So please allow us some time, and we will give you back to you as soon as possible.
Thanks, Zizi. And yes, thank you all so much for just being patient during this time. We know it's stressful, and as Zizi said, as long as you've done everything that you're required to do, you've done all that you need to do at that point. And really, it's just a matter of just a little time to give to our Office of International Students and Scholars, because they're very busy right now, but doing all that they can to be diligent and get to your I-20 processing as soon as possible. Right, I'm going to shift again a little bit. We had a couple questions about working during the program and what that kind of looks like. And so, I'll let Nikki kind of speak to this too from the student perspective. We had a specific question about what it looks like for an advanced standing student, because we know that track, it's accelerated. And so you are taking a little heavier course load at some points in the year, depending on what track you're in. And so it can be kind of challenging or a balancing act to commit yourself to some working hours outside of courses and practicum. I will say, and Nikki, you might have a little more to share about this too. It really is, it depends on the individual, depends on what you're comfortable with. But for the most part, what we see is students working between 10 to 20 hours a week in a part-time position, and that being pretty doable, especially if you're working on campus. I think, having a campus-based position is going to allow maybe even a little more flexibility than working off campus. Definitely still possible, and there are some incredible employers in St. Louis, so know that too. But if you do work on campus, you're going to have that, understanding of the campus perspective. Folks that you're working there know that you're a student first, and so we'll be very flexible with you. But Nikki, I'll let you jump in and talk about kind of what your experience has been balancing work in school.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that has been a part of mine and every student I know's experience here is working and school, and then eventually managing practicum. Just to touch on the advanced standing experience, while I am not an advanced standing student, I have a lot of friends who have just graduated, and that was what they were doing at the Brown School. And for them, all of them worked. A lot of them honestly worked a little bit more than 20 hours, which I know might sound potentially overwhelming, but as Sarah said, it's really up to how your style is and your style of structure for your week and how often you want to be working or you need to be working. Something I will say is that there are a lot of babysitting, tutoring, very flexible jobs in St. Louis. There's a huge network of different special jobs, or not special jobs, but jobs that students often prefer taking. I work at the BJC as a patient sitter, extremely flexible job, really well, highly paid. A lot of MSW students take that type of position. There's even a lice, a job where you can wash children's hair that come in with lice, and they take a lot of students from the Brown School. For some reason, they pay very well. It's very flexible. So there's a huge network of amount of jobs that are flexible, and you can get a fair amount for your hourly work. So that is definitely possible. A lot of students I also know work in their field a little bit more and can work part-time. There are also a lot of restaurants in St. Louis. A lot of people work as waitresses and waiters. So there is definitely possibilities of finding that flexible work that works with our lifestyle a little bit more than if we were working in a full-time job. I will say for me, I've hold on average around 2 jobs throughout the semester. And one of them is working with the Office of Admissions. So I highly recommend that job. They're an amazing office. And like Sarah said, like, I think working on campus can really help you kind of have that seamless experience of like going to class, going to work. It's all in the same building. So it's definitely possible. It's highly individualized, and most students, if not all, like I said, are working in some way. So there's definitely a network of people to reach out to find that type of flexible employment.
Great. Thanks, Nikki. I see we're getting lots and lots of questions in the Q&A, and thanks to my panel for answering some of those. I may ask some of those live too for the good of the whole. One question though that I'm gonna ask Zizi to answer is about applying to the MSP dual degree. So as many may be aware, there are a plethora of dual and joint degree options available within the Brown School and then within the larger WashU community with other programs across campus. At the Brown School, you can pair your degree, so your MSW or your MPH, with either one of the other programs. You can do a dual MSW MPH, or you can pair it with the MSP program. And so we had a question from an admitted MSW student asking what the process looks like for someone who's interested in adding that MSP dual degree.
Thank you, Sarah. So I will have like 2 reminders, and please keep it in mind. So first is the required documents. That's kind of like similar to what you have submit to your MSW application, but it's way more easier. What you need to do is that you have to submit a personal statement. It's about 500 words, which is related to why are you interested in social policy and some related questions. And the second will be having a faculty reference. You can find anyone who, who are your instructors or who have been, working with you to provide a recommendation later. And the third thing will be your update resume or CV. I bet you have, you will have add more experiences on your resume once you get in Brown School. So please update and send a new copy of your CV or resume to us. And the next thing will be a $50 non-refundable application fee. And if you are, the last thing will be the transcript. Please send us a copy of your new transcript as well. And those are all the required list that you will need, and you can find it from our website. I will drop the link later after I complete these questions. And the second thing I will be mindful is the timeline. I know that we are really flexible for students. So for students who are adding a new program, usually we follow the same timeline. Priority consideration will be December 1st this year. And then we will have the regular decisions for March 1st. And then after March 1st, we will start a rolling basis, and the final deadline will be July 1st. So we encourage students to apply as early as possible, so you will have a higher possibility, for scholarship or other things that you may want to get. But also another thing is that because you are adding a new program, you might want to consider, how does your fall schedule look like, for the next semester. So keep in mind and apply before the restoration date, I think will be helpful for you to enroll in the courses that's required for social policy program. That's it. And I will drop the link later.
Great, thank you, Zizi. So yes, it is definitely possible to add a program while you're a current student at the Brown School, especially for the MSP. There's some flexibility. If you're wanting to add, say you're an MSW student wanting to add MPH, that timeline might be a little different because of the way that course sequencing works. With MSP, it's just one full year, and it can be tacked on, but you can add it either in the middle of your MSW or at the end of your MSW or MPH, because any of the foundation courses that you're going to be taking in the MSW and MPH programs are going to count toward your MSP program. So there's some flexibility there for sure, but have those conversations early with program managers and also with admissions if you're thinking about adding a program, and we can talk about what that application process looks like. Right, I'm going to shift gears a little bit to funding opportunities, assistantships, continuing student scholarship, that sort of thing, because it looks like we've got a few questions about funding, and we know that that is, you know, at front of mind for folks who are deciding to make the commitment to come to grad school. It's a big investment, and so we don't want to be sure that we're supporting you. So Dom, if you want to speak a little bit to some of the information you provided in the Q&A already, but just generally, you know, what students should keep in mind as they're coming into the program around funding and finding assistantships and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So again, my name is Dominique Sand-Heinrich, Assistant Director of Financial Services, and we encourage students to really utilize, one, our Brown School website. There are opportunities in our website under Life at Brown that talk about assistantships, graduate assistantships, working with faculty members. We always encourage students to reach out to faculty members who are within your program, maybe talk to them about opportunities that they may be developing over the summer that could turn into a position. Again, funding opportunities are going to be a little bit more limited for graduate students as opposed to our undergrad students. But there are opportunities out there to cover, again, to cover your tuition, but there's not stipends at this time. So you would be paid as a WashU employee. So taxes would be taken out. You would get paid in a check form bi-weekly. But there are those opportunities available to our students. And then in your second year, we have continuing student scholarships, and that could be second and third year students. And generally you'll apply for those through the application process. They are limited, and they are generally a max of 5,000, which could be 25 applied to each semester. Or if you're like an advanced standing, maybe 16-month student, that 5,000 can be applied to your last semester. As a reminder, all institutional aid is applied to only your fall and spring semesters, so not in summer. So we encourage you to connect with Career Services for job opportunities in the summer or on campus. Again, those positions can be at the Med Campus, food service, library, but our main focus is definitely we want you here at the Brown School if those opportunities are there. And then, of course, we work with federal aid. And so if you have questions about that process, definitely get a hold of me or my department. We can assist you in that process. And then for students who are international students who are looking for loan opportunities, I did drop a couple of links in there for international loans. We don't really work much with those, but we encourage students to look at all the fine print, the interest rates, the repayment processes. Sometimes those are very limited, but those do get approved by our Student Financial Services Department. They have to be approved and certified in order for an international student to utilize those loans. Again, we want to set you up for success if you plan to use those loans. And then again, for your DCOF, we want to make sure that everything, all the numbers you write are accurate to support you while you're here. So that would be your living expenses and food, things, for your tuition, because we are limited in funds. And so that form is a legal form signed, letting us know that you are able to fund yourself and live here while you're here in the States. And so be sure that those numbers are accurate and that you have that full support. But yeah, feel free to ask any other questions directly about how we apply scholarship to student accounts. We also have our external webpage, our external scholarship page. Pay attention to those deadlines. As of right now, a lot of scholarship and awards have been awarded, but we encourage all students to look out in probably December for the following year.
Thank you so much, Dom. And yeah, I know that there are a lot of things to consider when it comes to funding, and often these conversations are really unique to each student and each individual. So certainly feel free to reach out to Dom, as she shared. She's very, very helpful and willing to talk through your unique situation. Dropped a few of those links in the chat to of resources that Dom referred to. I will say, the list of assistantships that we have on our website right now under admitted student resources, that is not an exhaustive list. We post positions there as we find out about them, but we know that other positions come available throughout the summer, even during your time at the Brown School. And so network, ask questions. If there, I think Dom mentioned, if there's a faculty member whose work is interesting to you, reach out to them. Their doors are open, and they're very happy to talk to you about what opportunities they know of. All right. We had a couple questions kind of related to the financial piece, Dom, about insurance that I know you answered a few questions in the Q&A about. And so just wanted to provide a little bit of overview about medical insurance to let folks know that you are required to have medical insurance. If you decide you want to waive out of WashU's health insurance, you can, but that option is only available for domestic students. International students must have the WashU student health insurance plan. We'll be sending some information out about that later in the summer, so you'll have a lot of more detailed kind of information coming your way. But Dom, any kind of tips or just things for folks to think about right now when considering health insurance?
Absolutely. So with domestic students, you do have to be approved before you can waive out of it. Generally, it's under your parents, or if you have a private insurance, generally they do not accept any kind of Medicaid insurance, but by all means, connect with Habith. A lot of things do change. Right now, the health insurance is set to be $2,232. And that will cover you from August of this year to July of the following year. You are only charged in the fall, and so you will not see that fee on your spring bill. But again, connecting with Habith, figuring out what the coverage looks like. Generally, we are under United Healthcare. And so that is something you can look into United Healthcare and get that app and look through some of what our coverage looks like for specialties, our specialists, and things of that nature. But the Habith Health Center is going to be your best place to answer those questions. And then if you plan to waive out of that, it will be applied to your account, and then Habith will remove that from your account once you have been approved to waive that health insurance. So other than that, I just say keep an eye on it. Generally, the waiver process ends about September 5th. So it gives you a little time once you're here in case you come up with a different health insurance plan that has been approved for coverage.
Great. Thanks, Dom. And I've also dropped a link in the chat to Habith's website. So if you have more questions, definitely reach out to them. The next question, I'm going to shift gears quite a bit again, that I want to ask is about housing. And so we know that that's another big consideration for the summertime is finding a place to live, especially if you're relocating from another state or outside of the region or from another country. It can be quite the ordeal. And so want to be sure that we're giving as many resources as we can. Now, we had a question about living on campus. And so I do want to let folks know that there's no official graduate student housing on WashU's campus. All of the residential halls are for undergraduate students. There are, however, university-owned and operated housing options that are around WashU's campus and very close walking distance from the Brown School. And so there are a couple of resources that you can explore to find university owned and operated housing that's off campus. But then a lot of our students are finding opportunities or finding their housing options through some of the more in the United States, like traditional means of finding a place to rent. So websites like Zillow, renters.com, there's so many search engines out there. Nikki, I'll let you kind of speak to what your experience was moving to St. Louis and finding housing though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that process can definitely be understandably a little bit stressful at the beginning, especially, if you're not from the St. Louis area. I moved from New York City after my undergrad. So my approach was just to get on all the apartment websites that there are, look for houses that I liked, and then just called up all the realtors. I spent like 2 days doing that, and I was able to find a really great place. There are a lot of virtual tours that people are offering now. So if you can't physically make it to the city, like I wasn't able to, asking for a virtual tour is always great. Like Sarah said, there are quite a few apartment options very close to campus. I live like a 4-minute drive from campus. It's a 20-minute walk. And a lot of the apartment buildings right around campus are in complexes. So there's lots of students and young professionals living in the area as well. There are a couple main neighborhoods that people live in. So like I said, I put my email in the chat. So if you'd like to talk about that more, please feel free to email me. But I would say for most people that I have met in the program, housing was kind of, we all signed leases without physically seeing our apartments, but we're always able to get a virtual option. So just to put people at ease, if that is something that is weighing on you, there are definitely ways to make that a little bit more painless. But yeah, I think the buildings in St. Louis are really stunning too. Like there's a lot of old buildings. So that's something that's really unique about St. Louis that I personally really love. There's a lot of stained glass windows. So yeah, those are just some tips. And also living near the park, if you can, is beautiful. I highly recommend. Don't underestimate the power of Forest Park. It's an amazing place. So yeah, that was what my experience was like.
Awesome. Thanks, Nikki. I know Melissa and I also dropped a couple links in the chat with resources on housing that we've compiled in admitted student resources, which I know I mentioned bookmarking that enrollment packet in your web browser, but if you haven't already, also bookmark admitted student resources webpage. So much information lives on that website and we're updating it almost daily, it feels like, with more information. But in those housing resources, not only do we have links to popular search engines for places to rent, but also just some really fun articles about St. Louis. So if you're not from here or have never been to St. Louis, can get a little bit of a sense of the community that you're going to be joining. It is a beautiful one. I'm also a St. Louis transplant, so not originally from here, but have lived here for 5 years and have just absolutely fallen in love with this city. And so we hope you will too, and have some more information about that there. And Forest Park is definitely amazing, as Nikki said, and Melissa echoed. Lots of green space in this city, and Forest Park is luckily just outside our front door at the Brown School. So you can walk across Skinker Boulevard and be in a beautiful, tranquil outdoor space. So I know we're coming up on time. We've got a few minutes still to answer a couple more questions. We had a few questions come in about some logistics around vaccination requirements and the like. And so wanted to let folks know that you can, first and foremost, if you've not been vaccinated for COVID-19, you do need to be vaccinated by the time you arrive to campus. And there is some information on the COVID vaccine information website that we can drop here in the chat. If you would like to wait, if you're an international student and want to get vaccinated in the United States, you can certainly do that upon arrival. Don't believe that it's required to request a visa. Zizi, you can correct me on that, but you'll just want to be sure that wherever you're traveling from, because I know that that can really vary. Travel restrictions are very different from country to country. So just know what the traveling protocol looks like in your home country or where you're moving from, to be sure that you have all the proper documentation around vaccination and that sort of thing. Zizi or anyone else have any other insight around what that looks like? Hopefully I covered it.
Yeah, I'm about to drop up the website where you can check the update policy about, you know, the health and health or like vaccination requirement. Just one more reminder is that, so for international students, you do need to submit your proof COVID vaccination by August 1. And so far, it seems like the booster is not required yet, but you want to make sure that you get that as soon as possible. And you also need to make sure that the vaccination you receive is fulfill the requirements under the university policy. I will drop the link here soon.
Thanks, Zizi. Wanted to pop back very quickly to housing because you had a question about when to start the housing search. Nikki, when did you start yours, or when do you recommend folks start looking?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I moved in August. I started looking end of June, beginning of July. There's a lot of turnover in those few months with people moving out and people moving in. So I would say around that time, like a month in advance is a good time to start looking.
Perfect. Thank you. And I agree. It takes about a month. All right. We are almost out of time. I'm going to ask one more question that feels like a good kind of way to round out this session and then move on to some final food for thought and some next steps. But had a couple questions about job prospects after the Brown School. You know, what is this time preparing me to do? And what can students expect? Because it is a quick 2 years, year and a half year if you're in the 12-month advanced standing, or three years goes by fast too. It goes by quickly. And so, you know, I'll ask Ragini maybe to start, and then Zizi, if you want to share too, because you are an alum of the Brown School, what folks can expect after they graduate from this program.
Yeah, because fun fact, I'm also an alum of the Brown School. And so, you know, I think I saw the question and it was focusing on MPH. And so I can kind of focus in there and then zoom back out to all of our students. For the public health program, about a third of our students go into research or like government type work. So either working for federal health departments or local health departments at the state and city level. We also have about a third of students who will go into more of like the public health practice sector. And so that could be working for nonprofits or private companies. And then we also have about a third of students that go on to additional advanced degrees, right? So going into medical school, getting your PhD. We also have students while they're here really getting a chance to speak to the other schools here at WashU. And so thinking about law or business. So there are plenty of students who actually kind of pursue additional degrees after leaving the Brown School. In terms of life post Brown School, and I'll keep this short because I know we're coming up on time, I would say, you know, utilizing your practicum opportunities to really think about what you want to do and maybe realizing what you don't want to do, right? I think that it serves for both. And that's kind of how it felt for me. Was I really quickly realized that maybe not quite direct practice with a social work lens, but maybe something that was more clinical research focused, where I was still working with participants, but I was also doing a lot of research. So that kind of married both of my interests together. And then I also will use this time to make a really big plug for our Brown School Career Services Center. You know, we're really lucky to have that resource here at the Brown School, and they can coach you on anything from creating your CV and your resume to doing practice interviews with you to helping you think through what life looks like after you leave the Brown School. And they're available to you from the moment you walk into the Brown School to the moment that you leave and after. I still talk to career services about stuff all the time. So I really recommend reaching out to them as well.
Thanks, Ragini. Since we only have a minute left, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with next steps. Thank you all so much for your really wonderful responses. This has been such a fun panel, and I'm just grateful to have you all as colleagues and work with you. And I know that those listening have really appreciated the thoughts and insight that you've been able to share today. So thank you. All right. So here are next steps for those who are admitted and coming to the Brown School this fall. Again, summer enrollment is happening now. So please review your enrollment packet thoroughly. Tasks range from course registration, as we talked about earlier in the session, but then also some information about getting your WashU student ID campus card, how to submit your official transcripts and those immunization records. Please be sure to check your email, both your woostel.edu email and your personal email regularly throughout the summer, because we're going to be sending stuff to you all the time, and use those summer checklists to help you stay on track. Also know that student orientation will be coming up before you know it. In early July, online orientation will launch. This is a WashU-wide online orientation called Get Your Bearings. So be on the lookout for an invitation to start that in July. You do have to complete that by a certain date, or I believe a hold gets put on your account. So do not mistake that as something that you can just pass by. It is a requirement. And then there is in-person orientation. So for our international students, that's August 22nd and 23rd. And then the Booter Center is having new student orientation for Booter connected students on August 23rd as well. And then August 24th through 26th is new student orientation for everyone. So be on the lookout for more information about those dates very soon. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us. Our contact information is here. Nikki shared her contact information in the chat, but you can reach out to us at Brown Admissions if you would like to get in touch with her or other current students. Thank you all again so much for your time today. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to seeing you very soon in the fall.